Join the HN Live family with its new video platform, HN Live Plus.
Oh! No. Oh, it's over! Whoa!
Not only will you get a platform with paywalls and copyright protection, but also 4K streaming at the lowest pricing with customer support.
Here comes Boyle on a breakaway. 5-hole scores!
HN Live Plus will also bring high-quality video production, video editing, and social media support to help grow your brand. Join the fastest growing sports streaming company in North America, HN Live Plus. Call today and showcase your content. The following is a presentation of HN Live.
What a move! Oh my goodness! How did that stay out? I thought it was in. Unbelievable!
And how about that? Scores!
He scores!
He scored! That is beautiful.
Scores!
In this game, exceptional. And the champion of the John Reid Memorial Tournament.
"16 teams across Western Canada and the United States, all here to battle for the fabled John Reid title. Welcome, folks. It's day one here in St. Albert. Pack it up, pack it in, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin. Welcome inside the Marc Messier Arena here in St. Albert for game number 2 of the John Reid Memorial. We've got the St. George U15 Prep and the Sherwood Park Flyers for game number 2. Well, technically game number 1 in this arena. However, there is a game starting in the Performance Arena for the technical first game of the John Reid Memorial. Of course, the St. George U15 Prep, they're looking to avenge their quarterfinal loss last year to Delta and crown their first ever John Reid title. They've got a very good group to do it, and if anyone's going to do it, it would be St. George Prep. Taking a look at the other side of the ice, the Sherwood Park Flyers weren't invited to last year's tournament. However, they do have 3 chips under their belt for the John Reid Memorial: 1979, 1991, and 2008. However, the 1979 title, they're actually the Sherwood Park Bumpers, but Sherwood Park team all together, so we'll crown it in as that team is looking for its 4th John Reid title. It's going to be a great showcase of high-end skill here in the John Reid. A lot of eyes on a lot of these players, so it is going to be a very, very good hockey game, to say the least. St. George looking to have a little bit better start to their tournament. Last year, they opened up the tournament with a 3-2 loss to the Phoenix Junior Coyotes, so they're going to be hungry to get back into the win column, or at least get to start the tournament in the win column, as they've got some tough matchup. Both teams going to have to play good on either side of the ice to beat one team. I know it's not just one specific division. It's the CSSHL and the AEHL, along with some other leagues as well. So it's a lot of good hockey spread across multiple different leagues. As it looks like, I do believe we are going to be going to our nation's anthem before the start of this game. Do it. All the formalities are out of the way. Time to play some classic U15 AAA puck. packed house here in the Marc Messier for the opening game in this arena. Of course, the tournament will be played all year long, of course, hosted on HN Live. As I am Brett Subchition, for-year broadcaster for most of the day. As we're going to get the first game of the tournament underway here. Two centermen will take the draw now for either team. For St. George, it'll be Liam Hussey. He's got 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points this season. Of course, it'll be the other 8 on the ice as well. Max Wishloff, he's got 31 points, including 16 goals, as both teams are going to have to play good as the boys are back in town. St. George will get their first puck possession time in their own zone as they're going to cut up the half ice and go for a dump and change. St. George applying some good pressure here on the offensive forecheck. Bing Zhao will regain possession and settle it down now for St. George. Drath on the near side. He's guarded close by Blank. It eventually will be rotated down low and out at Jackson Schur up through the slot. Nobody there but a handful of St. George players as they're going to come back the other way now. It's Rogers trying to go wide on his man. However, some better defense. Blake Solden will recover the puck for the Flyers, at least for the moment. St. George really hemming them in their own zone right now. Solden will feather that to the opposite side corner. Good forechecking here by the Flyers. Sherwood Park looking to get an early answer here in the first period. A couple quick passes. That latest pass intended for Nash Glatcher rather. Couldn't found the intended target though. St. George nearly picks it off at Sherwood Park's blue line, but they're going to come back the other way right at the blue line. St. George, Caleb Thomas throwing around his body weight. Puck thrown up. It's Egan's shot. That'll go just wide on blocker's side of Hudson Waddell. St. George with possession. The intended feed for Jaden Need just out of his reach, and we'll have the game's first stoppage of play. Taking a look at the starting goaltender for St. George, like I mentioned, Hudson Waddell. 7-2 so far for St. George Prep. .324 goals against average and a .902 save percentage. Flyers are going to have to be good to beat him here today. Defensive zone draw won by St. George as they're going to get the breakout started with a couple clean passes. Jaden Nee looking up. Sends that one on net, and it'll be routinely crested away by the Sherwood Park Flyers netminder, Grayson Scriba. I mentioned the Flyers are going to have to be good to beat Waddell, while the St. George Prep team also is going to have to be good to beat Scriba. He has yet to lose this season. 11-0, a .173 goals against average, and a .921 save percentage. Both teams are coming in with some pretty high-level goaltenders, so I got a sneaky suspicion this one might be a little bit of a goaltender duel, but only time will tell. Sherwood Park moving up the neutral zone. Coming back the other way, Schellenberg goes under the stick of his defender, actually regains the loose puck and sends it up to the top of the point. St. George being physical here in the first period, trying to set the tone early. Coming back the other way now is Hafe. Max Hafe, the centering feed just out of reach for Nick Hill. St. George recovering in the neutral zone. Bing Zhao didn't want to touch that or it would have been offside. As DeSaltes will rotate it in, and Sherwood Park will get a couple fresh legs out there. Bing Zhao. The far wing boards, and once again, some good breakout here from St. George. You'd think that the early morning game might have effect on them, but not whatsoever, as St. George really sticking their passes early here in this game. Linesman's going to blow that one dead. They're going to say Sherwood Park was just a step overside, and we'll have yet another stoppage of play here in this first period. Of course, St. George looking to win this first game. Like I mentioned, they lost last year 3-2 to the Junior Coyotes in game number 1, but they actually come into today's contest riding a 2-game winning streak They actually won 6-0 and 5-0 to, I think it was Shawnigan Lake Prep School in back-to-back games. So technically they're on a 2-game winning streak coming into today's game, outscoring their opponents 11-0 in that 2-game winning streak. Of course, Sherwood Park looking to stop that winning streak at 2 as Blink cuts up the ice on the near side. What a move to cut to the middle. Blink, a couple nice moves. The puck just sitting there. Some better defense by St. George as they congested the middle. A couple slick hands there by the defenseman, but better defense by St. George. Drath will go wide. A long shot, boarded into the corner by Scriba. Puck intended for Wyatt Olson, the team's leader in points. However, it'll hit a banner or 2 and be a stoppage of play. Wyatt Olson, 20 goals, 21 assists for 41 points this season. He actually sits 6th in the AEHL for points, and you must think, 6th in the AHL for points for 40, not too bad. It's actually really good. It's almost 2 points a game. However, the league leader in that division, of course, being Madden No, who is on pace for over 100 points this season. Long lead pass by Sherwood Park. Misses the intended target, and that'll be another icing call here against Sherwood Park Flyers. It'll be defensive zone draw. Offensive zone draw here upcoming for St. George. Luca Rogers taking the draw for St. George. He's going to win that cleanly as they're going to regain possession in the offensive zone. Jaden Nee looking for an outlet. Has it on the near side and rotates it for Rogers. Just out of his reach. Sherwood Park quick to regain possession. Moving up the ice was Sherwood Park. St. George doing a very good job at really meeting them in the neutral zone and not letting them get any easy passes through. Egan's. Pass by St. George, picked off now by Cale Colmont. He's got 10 assists so far with the Flyers. Still looking for his first goal of the season. Puck nearly picked off by Harris of the Sherwood Park Flyers. Scriba out of his net to play the puck, nearly coughed it up. However, regaining possession for the Flyers is Nate Egan's, but he's going to throw it up. A big collision out in front as Sherwood Park comes up big on the defensive end. Caleb Thomas for St. George. The pass back for his D partner, Schiebler. Once again, another St. George pass nearly picked off by Sherwood Park. Maybe it just took a couple minutes for Sherwood Park to find their footing, but it's been really back and forth here these last couple minutes, especially with Sherwood Park applying some offensive pressure like you're seeing here. Galatcher pinned along the boards. The captain, Harris, is there for support as well. Or rather, not the captain. Both teams trying to poke it free. It'll come now to the near side. Caleb Thomas now behind his frame. That puck thrown up to the right wing side, intended for Max Haft. He's actually just going to let that one go all the way into Sherwood Park's zone. They're going to say no icing on the play as it went off a stick or 2 before entering Sherwood Park's end. Captain John Main for St. George Prep. Regains the loose puck as a couple forecheckers on Sherwood Park. Try to make his job a little harder. However, St. George having some very good breakouts here in this first period. Pucks are really sticking to tapes. As coming back the other way now is Schellenberg for Sherwood Park. Still looking for our first goal of the game. As both teams trying to fight for the first one. Shots are 3-0 in favor of St. George. Coming back the other way, Marcus Nguyen. Couldn't do much with that as he was one-on-one. As another big hit, but they're going to call that one a penalty on the play against St. George. They're going to call the captain, John Main, as it was a good hit, but they're going to say maybe rode up a little high, and that'll be the first power play of this game for Sherwood Park. Coming into today's contest, Sherwood Park so far this season, 15.6 power play. That actually ranks 15th in the AEHL, so maybe looking to improve that a little bit here. And what better time than some tournament play as Wyatt Olson will have it on the near side. As he's going to rotate it to Matthews behind the net. On the backhand, a nice feed to the top of the point for Blake Solden. Wyatt Olson now sends that one through traffic. Didn't hit a stick or anything, so that'll go out of the zone, doing St. George's job for them. Blake Solden now for Wyatt Olson. Olson will swing that pass now, picked up in stride by Jackson Scher. Scher goes wide. Rotates it around to the opposite side for Wyatt Olson. Good body positioning to regain possession. Free puck bumps over for Solden. Now to the left wing side for Scher. Shot off the side of the net. The first shot on net by Sherwood Park. Couple quick passes now as Wyatt Olson sends it on net. Big rebound. Solden looks to recover. He will. A big block by St. George. Good puck movement here by Sherwood Park. Wyatt Olson on net. That'll go off the stick of Matthews into the opposite side corner. Caleb Thomas unable to get the puck out. Quick swing pass by Scher over for Olson, who chops at it again as St. George will finally regain possession and get their first clear of this penalty kill. Scher waiting for the infiltrate to arrive, and arrive it does, this time in the form of Parsons, who nearly gets blown up in his own zone. Coming back the other way is Sherwood Park. Galatcher goes wide on his man, having some trouble here as he's trying to rotate it down low. As DeSaltes back over for Sullivan Blink. Blink rotates it now for Parsons, who unable to, rather that was Bennett McCallum, unable to hold the line with that pass. Blink moving up the ice. Leaves it at the point. It'll be held in. Back to 5-on-5 hockey. So Sherwood Park with their first power play opportunity, unable to do much with that. As Hudson Waddell with a nice shoulder save to keep this game at 0 apiece. Shots 3-3. They were 3-0 in favor of St. George, but I guess a power play will even up the shot counter. As we've got a defensive zone drop coming here for St. George. A tie-up at the draw. St. George able to bat at a loose puck, so that'll walk its way into Sherwood Park's zone. Sullivan Blink will pick up a nice sauce feed from his D partner, Westerland. Moving it up quick now is Sherwood Park. St. George doing a good job at, once again, hemming them in the neutral zone. Sherwood Park looking to use some of that offensive momentum they got from the power play to take it into 5-on-5 hockey. They haven't really had any grade A chances when it's even strength. Tie up in the corner. Two kids from both teams caught up in the boards battle in the corner as it eventually come away for Sherwood Park. Couple quick passes and it's 2-on-2 coming back the other way. Sullivan Blink hopping up into the action. Blink, a couple nice moves. The centering feed will go to the far wing boards. St. George, however, able to bump it into the neutral zone, so forcing Sherwood Park to tag up in no man's land. Nate Egan's with the pickoff at the blue line. He in turn gets his pocket picked, and coming back the other way now is St. George. The pass for Jaden Nee just out of his reach. St. George will hold the line. Back for Jaden Nee, a projected first-round draft pick of this upcoming WHL draft. Bennett McCollum. A nice rotation down low. Sherwood Park looking for the opening goal. Henry Jiang. His pass picked off. Jaden Nee nearly picks it off, but now it's Wessick. Wessick to the left wing side. Shot blocked away by Skriba. On the back end, how does that puck stay out? What a heads-up play by Wessick to fake the wraparound and go back the same side he just came from. Now it's Wessick once again as everyone's crashing the net. Skriba making some of his best saves of the game so far. Skriba coming up big. He actually played for NAX U15 AAA last year. He had 11-2 record, a .210 goals against average, and a .905 save percentage. So he played some good hockey in the CSSHL. No surprise, he's playing even better hockey in the AEHL. They're going to throw the Sherwood Park centerman Wyatt Olson out of the draw. As Schellenberg will take the draw for the Flyers, as that's a quick draw and a quick shot by St. George. Glove down by Skriba. Of course, Skriba number 3 in goals against average in the AEHL, 8th in save percentage. As it's a great year for AEHL U15 AAA. You have a lot of top name prospects, a lot of guys that are projected to get drafted into the WHL draft, and of course just talent just overall getting better in the AEHL. Not to say that it was bad to begin with, but just always likes to see the game grow, especially in Alberta. Long lead feed just out of reach for Jackson Sure. St. George will regain possession. Hill will dump that puck in. Davison. Shot through traffic, couldn't do much with that. Coming back the other way now is Jackson Sure, trying to go wide on his man Schiebler. Jackson Sure, a rotate down low, a little too much of a rotation. Only player there is Jackson Davison. Olsen, the feed for Sure, the pass out in front. Everybody's hacking at the loose puck. They're looking to locate. Big pad save by Waddell. St. George rotates it in and get 4 fresh legs out there. Lone skater will be Liam Hussey to stay out as the forechecker. Galatcher tips that one. Now it's a foot race forward. Parsons has a break to the net. Parsons shot. Waddell, a big stop. As Harris sends one on net. However, I don't think it would have been called a good goal regardless. Just crashing the net was Jackson Parsons, but what a save by Hudson Waddell. I mean, it's already impressive enough to not have to get taken to the hospital after getting hit like that as a goalie, but still able to make the save and even don't worry about his helmet flying off. He even got up and tried to make another save on the attempted play out in front, and that just shows you what type of goaltender the St. George U15 prep team has. St. George with possession in their own zone. Shot 6-4 in favor of St. George, but last 2 minutes have been some very close action. Flyers might have got away with one in front of their own bench, as everybody's throwing their body weight around. Everyone wants to set the tone early, and needless to say, they've definitely set the tone. Drath with it on the near side. Goes wide on his man Galatcher, but a good angle off by the Sherwood Park Flyer forward. Will regain possession now for the Flyers. Coming back the other way. It's a 2-on-5. A shot will bounce off a leg and into the corner. Flyers having some numbers coming off the bench, able to try and hem St. George in their own zone. Schiebler. His pass picked off. Westerland unable to hold the line as he'll just rotate it back for defenseman Ben DeSaltes. Schiebler moves that puck quick, not before wearing a check in the corner. St. George will come back the other way, though they've got numbers. It's Rogers, joined by Jaden Nee. Rogers shot. Skriba puts aside back-to-back chances and will cover that up. Like I mentioned in the intro, I got a sneaky suspicion this one might be a little bit of a goaltender's duel, and I got a sneaky suspicion that I was right. Both goalies on either side of the ice coming up big when their teams needed them most. And it's just going to be a game of which offensive unit can figure out the goalie first. Both goalies playing some great hockey to start this period. Sure, he's got to step to the net. Jackson Sure hauled down. There might be a penalty shot on the play. We'll have to see. And unfortunately, there will not be, as I don't blame the official for not calling the penalty shot. Of course, it has to be a clear-cut breakaway, and I'd say that was more of a battle than a breakaway. But regardless, Sherwood Park is going to go to its second power play of the day. They are 0 for 1 on their previous attempt. 3 shots on goal recorded. St. George Prep penalty kill, 80% in the CSSHL. They rank 10th in that stat. 12 goals against on, or rather 18 goals against on the penalty kill. So looking to improve some of those numbers here. Like I mentioned, tournament's a great chance to try and get out any rust that you have coming into the second half of the season. We're at a standstill now. Solden didn't want to touch the puck as it was a high stick, so I do believe this will be a defensive zone draw for Sherwood Park. .5:57 remaining here in this first period of play. 8-4 are the shots in favor of St. George. However, Sherwood Park is on the power play. Olsen leaves it for Blake Solden. Solden back for the aforementioned Wyatt Olsen. 16 goals this year in the AEHL. St. George had a chance to get it out as look at the hand-eye coordination by Max Haft. He must play lacrosse in the summer. Solden, his pass. Found now by Wishloff. Wishloff, the dish off feed is Sherwood Park. Not a very good zone entry as that puck will be sent right back the length of the ice, the place it just came from. Skriba nearly coughs it up for Jaden Nee, who throws a huge check in Sherwood Park zone. Hasn't had a good chance to put the puck in the back of the net, but that's what makes that kid so good. He doesn't have to put the puck in the back of the net for it to be a good game for him. He's setting the tone early. Trying to be a leader on this ice for St. George. A good boards battle here by Sherwood Park will reward them with the puck back. Blink at the top of the point. Sullivan Blink guarded closely by Jaden Nee. He's going to cause a turnover. Jaden Nee, the one-man army, as St. Albert, or rather Sherwood Park, will regain possession in the neutral zone. Sullivan Blink doesn't want to touch her. It would have been offside, but waits right before Schiebler's able to get possession. Just 2 seconds remaining, so that'll do it for the power play. Sherwood Park, 2 chances on the special teams. Unable to do much with that. They didn't record a shot. That shot tipped just wide. Sullivan Blink, a good glove down at right near the red line, sends it right back into St. George's zone. John Main, the captain, the long lead feeds. Sherwood Park had to be careful. Nearly was a too many men call. It looks like a little bit of a set play, however. They're going to call that one icing almost immediately as Max Davison would have had a clear-cut breakaway to the net. Jack Davison, 5 goals, 11 assists for 16 points. Played for the Burnaby Winter Club last year. 8 goals, 15 assists for 23 points. A shot in the slot, put aside by Waddell. And we see some rough stuff here in the late stages of this first period. I mean, no surprise that we're seeing some extracurricular activities. It's been a period full of everybody finishing their checks off, so I have a feeling this might be the pace of play for the rest of the game. Face-off won by Sherwood Park. Flyers unable to do much with that. Wessick, a good outlet into the neutral zone. Jaden Need just a step ahead of Rogers, so they're going to blow that one dead for an offside call. Of course, Jaden Nee, 17 goals, 15 assists for 32 points. Like I mentioned, a projected first-round pick in this year's upcoming WHL draft. And my rankings that I've been looking at, not mine, it was on Elite Prospects, however, it's projected to go 22nd in this year's upcoming WHL draft. He actually won a U15 CSSHL championship with Delta last year as an affiliate. He was playing for Delta White AAA, and he was actually called up, and he actually finished the season with Delta in the U15 CSSHL prep and ended up winning one with the green. Shot ringing off the bar was Wessick. St. George finally able to beat Scriba, but not Johnny Iron on that shot, as Wessick nearly blew this game open late in the first period. Theo Wessick, 4 goals, 13 assists for 17 points. He was a part of St. George's U15 AAA team last year. 8 goals, 19 assists for 27 points. Pretty good player in AAA and having himself a good season here in prep as well. The feed for Wyatt Olson, it's a full race for it. He'll be first on the puck as he's going to outlet now for Jackson Scher. Scher shot just wide, short side. Scher in the bumper slot. That'll go off a stick or two, and Wyatt Olson a huge crunch in the corner. He is a big boy, so no surprise he's throwing away his weight around here. Olson gloves the one down, back for Scher, shot off the post. Both teams going off the post as this game will stay 0-0, at least for the moment. Jack Davison now goes wide on his man. Davison the backhand, put aside by Scriba. Olson tries to feather that one through the neutral zone. It'll be hemmed in the zone by St. George. Nguyen, good for checking. Schiebler from the point, tipped into the opposite side corner. Jackson Scher couldn't do much with that, so St. George will hold it in, at least for the moment. Saltes to his D partner in the corner. Olson will chip it into the neutral zone, giving an opportunity now for the Flyers to get a couple fresh legs out there. Miscommunication here by St. George will give it back for Blink for the Flyers. His pass for Galatcher picked off. Now Liam Hussey back the other way, shot flashing the leather is Scriba. Liam Hussey nearly had a chance to make it a 1-0 game for St. George. 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points this season. He was also a part of last season's U15 AAA St. George team. 21 goals, 28 assists, 49 points. Needless to say, Hussey knows how to put the puck in the back of the net. Sherwood Park with the defensive zone draw win. Perfect draw weight, as they're going to say no icing on the play, forcing St. George to relocate now in the neutral zone. Wessick nearly made it a 1-0 game with his last shift, rang one off the crossbar. Behind the net now, St. George is surging. Flyers will regain possession, however. Pass nearly picked off at Sherwood Park's blue line, but Bing Zhao will rotate it in a little deeper. Solden for his D partner Sullivan Blink. Loses it in his skates, however, skated up a little bit further now by Harris. Harris, the backhand on net, will be routinely put aside by Hudson Waddell. Corbin Harris, the captain for the Crusaders. Excuse me, the Flyers. I knew that was going to happen at least once today. As I was saying, Corbin Harris, 6 goals, 10 assists for 16 points with the Flyers. What a move here by Olson. What a feed out in front. Scores! It's a highlight reel goal for the Flyers, first of the tournament. And who else but Jackson Scher? What a goal Oh my. What a move by Wyatt Olson. I mean, I didn't know we were playing NHL 26 in this tournament. That is a sneaky move between the legs and then just a perfect feed out in front for sure. He's not going to miss that close. He's got 15 goals so far this season, and that is a great momentum booster for the Flyers. Not to say the Flyers had a bad first period by any means. However, it's always good to be up 1 goal, especially going into the first break of the game, as Sherwood Park maybe putting together another maybe set play, as it's not actually Olsen taking the draw this time. It is Wishloff. Shot from the point. Waddell routinely puts that one aside. Wesick outlets to Knee. Knee, he gets stood up in the neutral zone. Sherwood Park playing with some swagger right now. Schiebler over for Knee. Knee tries to go in a little deeper, as the Flyers will rotate it in. 20 seconds remaining here in this first period of play. Picked off by Colmont. Olsen stands his man Wesick up. I don't even think he realized he was getting hit. Now just under 10 seconds remaining here as the time ticks down. The boards battle on the near side will come away for St. George, and that'll do it for the first period of play here in the Mark Messier. 1-0 is the score thanks to a Jackson Shirt tap-in feed from Wyatt Olson. That'll give the Flyers the 1-0 lead after 20 minutes of play. Well, thank you very much for listening in on HN Live. Of course, I am Brett Subchition. Get your pops, get your snacks, do whatever you need to do. I do realize now it is 9 a.m., so maybe don't be drinking pop that early, but you know what I mean. We've got high-octane hockey coming in about 15 short minutes time for second period action, and we love to see you there.
Join the HN Live family with its new video platform, HN Live Plus.
Oh! No. Oh, it's over! Whoa!
Not only will you get a platform with paywalls and copyright protection, but also 4K streaming at the lowest pricing with customer support.
Here comes Boyle on a breakaway. 5-hole scores.
HN Live Plus will also bring high-quality video production, video editing, and social media support to help grow your brand. Join the fastest growing sports streaming company in North America, HN Live Plus. Call today and showcase your content.
And welcome back for second period action here in the Mark Messier. As the Sherwood Park Flyers find themselves up 1-0 on St. George U15 prep because of that man right there, Jackson Shear. Unreal tap-in goal from an unreal face-off play there by Wyatt Olson. As the Flyers right now have the current 1-0 lead. They actually led in the shot department in the first period as well, 11-10. 2 power plays as well, unable to capitalize on either of the power plays. As we have second period action here in the Mark Messier. As St. George sends out their 5, as I think we're ready to go here. As we got period number 2 in the John Reid Memorial. Solden and Gambetti right off the face-off draw. Having some choice words for each other. St. George behind the net. John Main holds the blue line for the moment. Sherwood Park looking to regain possession. Main will do once again in holding the line. Wyatt Olson off the half wall. His pass picked off. Now it's Wessick. The centering feed just out in front, or rather that was Gambetti with that good chance out in front. St. George surging, however, regaining possession at the top of the point through traffic. That'll be blocked by Wishloff and rotated out into the neutral zone. Now look at this, it's Shear. Jackson Shear looking for his second. Finds Wyatt Olson. And they're on the back end of a shift, so it won't do much with that. Gambetti. He gets stopped short, however, the captain, John Main, will find Rogers. Rogers loses an edge in the neutral zone. Regaining possession for the moment was Galacher for the Flyers. Rogers first on it in the offensive zone. St. George now for Jaden Nee. Nee out in front. Rogers trying to pull the trigger but couldn't cleanly enough. That'll be Skriba making the save. Defensive zone drop coming for Sherwood Park. Jaden Nee loads up, sends that one on net. It'll pinball off a couple bodies and into the corner. Rogers in the corner. Free puck picked up by St. George yet again. Caleb Thomas through traffic. Skriba makes the nice save. Back to back, 2 straight shots from St. George. It would have been nice to be a fly on the wall in the locker room for St. George to see what their head coach had to say to them after the first period of play. It's not like they played a bad period by any means. Jaden Nee with possession in the slot, trying to get a clean trigger pull on it, couldn't. And now coming back the other way is Matthews for the Flyers. St. George went to clear that and went off a glove or two of the Flyers bench. And that'll be routinely whistled down by the linesman yet again. Of course, Sherwood Park having themselves a pretty good season. 20-2 record, second in the AEHL. They actually lead the North Division. They also have 121 goals scored this season, second in the AEHL. So no surprise, this team likes to score goals, and you can tell by the way they play offense, especially in the first period. Jaden Nee, first on it in the corner. The centering feed will bounce off a couple bodies, and for the captain, John Main at the red line. He's quick to send it right back from the place it just came from, forcing the Flyers to regain possession in their own zone. Egan's having some trouble in the breakout. It'll still bump into the neutral zone. John Main to the near side for the foot race. Hill tries to find Davison. That'll find its way into Sherwood Park's territory. The Flyers high off the glass, so that was the intent. However, that'll be lifted a little too high. We'll have yet another stoppage of play. 13-5 is the record for St. George Prep. They're a BC team out of the Canadian Sports School Hockey League, or the CSSHL. That is the Prep division in U15 in BC. Clean win by St. George, a little too clean as the puck will go between two St. George defenders. And I think that puck will go off the official and right into the Flyers bench, as we'll have yet another stoppage of play in the second period. A pretty stop and starty middle frame compared to the first, where we've seen a lot of flowy back and forth action between the two clubs. It's been a little bit more of less ice given up between the two clubs. Maybe it's more of a figuring out of sorts between the two clubs to figure out maybe the offensive cadence and style of play of both teams. So seeing more of a defensive grind to start this middle frame. Shear pass through the slot, couldn't be found, but held in by DeSaltez, will be sent on net, and that'll be gloved down by Hudson Waddell, his first test of this middle frame. Hudson Waddell played for the St. George U15 AAA division, 7-15-1 record, a .622 goals against average, and a .896 save percentage. So maybe not the stats he would have wanted in AAA, but sure having himself a good season with the St. George U15 Prep team this year. And Enzo Draft now forced to take the draw for St. George. He'll end up losing that to the captain, Harris. John Main to the near side for Gambetti. St. George having some trouble getting the breakout started. The centering feed up to the top of the point will be held in now by Enter. That shot blocked by St. George out in front of their own net. A boards battle ensues. Hussey with it. Liam Hussey helped out by Enzo Drath as he goes there for support. As the puck bumps behind the net for the captain, John Main. Main's pass intercepted by the Flyers and sent right back into St. George's zone. Main once again with a chance to get the breakout started. Gambetti. Puck will actually hop over a stick, but St. George will come back the other way now to the far wing. Boards. Shot from distance. Routinely blocked away by Scriba. DeSaltez, the pass now for Parsons. Parsons quickly picked off now by Jaden Nee. Nee want to move to get around one as the puck will go into the corner. DeSaltez once again. He just lifts that high, and I actually might be a breakaway chance coming up here. It's Galatcher. Breakaway attempt, backhand. How does that puck stay out? I thought for sure he was able to go 5-hole on the backhand. Hudson Waddell with the best save of this game. And you can see just a real heads-up play there by Galatcher. As that puck was lifted up, I don't think the defenseman on St. George realized Galatcher was behind him. A little stick lift, and what do you know, you're on a breakaway. It was a little too close to really try anything fancy that close, so I don't blame him for trying the 5-hole shovel. What a pass back over. Shear nearly had another chance. I'll say this Sherwood Park club really good on their offensive zone draws. You got to be careful. You blink and it's in the back of the net. That time it was Solden. Sending that to the right wing side for the lone goal scorer on Sherwood Park, Jackson Shear. Tie up at the draw. St. George unable to get the puck out of their own zone. Sherwood Park doing a very good at some offensive forechecking. Now one-on-one. Jaden Nee and Solden. Nee cuts in wide shot. Big pad save by Scriba. Best chance so far of the star player for St. George. Scriba making some good saves. Jackson Shear with it. Over the blue paint, Shear looking for an option. It's Wishloff's shot, gloved away. Another chance for Olsen. Big rebound for Blink. Big saves by Waddell. Another shot by Sullivan. Blink. That one couldn't get through traffic. Shear tries to find the aforementioned Blink. However, an errant pass will force the Flyers into the neutral zone for a tag up. McCullum finds Shear, who eventually will backhand that one on for Waddell's way, who will routinely cover it up, but Hudson Waddell standing on his head, making numerous rebound saves on some pretty grade A chances by the Flyers. They had their best chance of the second period to get their largest lead of the game, which would be 2. A high volume of shots so far in this game, 16 for the Flyers, 15 for St. George, 31 shots so far between the two clubs, and we're not even at the halfway mark of this game. Looks like there's an upcoming penalty now to Coleman for the interference call, so this will send St. George to their first power play of the tournament. Just a 2-minute interference call. So St. George goes to the power play. Taking a look at their power play, they've got a pretty efficient power play to say the least. 24.4% power play in the CSSHL. They actually ranked 5th best for that stat, as they're looking to tie this game up. John Main, couple quick passes. The intended pass for Knee just out of his reach, forcing St. George now to tag up. Main backtracks into his own zone and eventually will cut up the middle, rotating it around for Jaden Knee. Flyers doing a good job with some loose puck battles, so that'll be sent the length of the ice for the Flyers' first real clear of the penalty kill. Main for Knee. What a move here is Jaden Knee cutting up the ice, but look at the back checking here from the captain, Harris. Knee wanted a penalty on the play, but he throws his weight around instead. Coming away with it is Solden. Solden on the right wing side. One-on-one with John Main. Solden couldn't do much with that as he gets punished on the near side boards from John Main as he is hurt. St. George coming back the other way. It's a 2-on-1. Max Haft just out of his reach. Some great defense from Nash Galatcher. Everybody's hitting everything in sight right now as St. George. The left wing corner. Rogers in the corner as well. Looking for an option. Still with possession as he rotates out a little bit deeper into the zone. Now will be to the right wing side. St. George shot put aside by Scriba. That was Hill with the newest St. George chance. Caleb Thomas will hold the line for his D partner Rogers. Now it's Thomas yet again, loads up, sends that one down low. Couple quick passes picked off by the Flyers and sent in and out. Just 10 minutes, or rather 10 seconds remaining in this power play. So Flyers able to do a very good job at killing off this St. George power play. Nate Egan's defenseman for the Flyers. He's got 4 assists so far, still looking for his first goal of the season. What better way than the John Reid? Face-off won by St. George in their own zone. We're back to 5-on-5 hockey. Just 2 shots recorded on the power play for St. George. Wyatt Olson, he gets pinned along the boards. The puck will poke free for Hussey. Jackson Shear with it, the game's lone goal scorer. To the left wing side, Shear shot. Nearly had Waddell on the short side. Shear once again with possession. What a pass now to the right wing side as he was setting up Max Wishloff. As that shot from distance put aside once again by Hudson Waddell. This top line of Wyatt Olson, Jackson Shear, and Max Wishloff has sure been playing some good hockey for the Flyers. It's really been their mainstay for offense this entire game, and right now St. George doesn't really have an answer for it. Another defensive zone draw won by St. George. Once again, they're unable to get the puck out from distance. Blockered away by Waddell. DeSaltes from distance once again. That'll go just wide of the frame. Jaden Knee coming back the other way. Westerland, what a move to get around one as he's going to push the pace offensively. To the right wing side, it's DeSaltes. Shot, scores! Ben DeSaltes gets the second goal of the game for the Flyers as they have their largest lead of the game. It's 2-0. And just a great move in their own zone. The pass gets sent to the right wing side for DeSaltes as he sends a missile past the blocker side of Hudson Waddell. And if you're Sherwood Park, that is a huge goal to get at the halfway mark of this game. St. George looking for an answer, however. Puck thrown in. Defended well by Sullivan Blink. Couple quick passes now. I will say St. George, I would say, is leading in the hits and physicality department. That hasn't went away this entire game, as Drath will rotate that one in. Parsons chips that into the neutral zone where it's one-on-one Galatcher. Tries to go wide on his man, Jiang. Better defense by the St. George defenseman, however. Harris down low for Parsons. Good boards battle on the near side now. Shot from Solden will just tip wide. Just an inch or two away from going in. Drath gets picked off by Sherwood Park. Coming back the other way now is Gambetti. Gambetti one-on-one with Solden. Realized he was 1-on-3, so he rotates it in for a change for St. George, or rather, St. George. Coming back the other way now is St. George. A defensive stop on the Flyers' end. That'll be Solden. Laying his body on the line. A sharp angle shot, nearly caught Scriba sleeping. Flyers will rotate it in. The long lead feed now found by Haft. Couldn't do much with that, but just rotate it in, as that'll be found now by Westerland, as he's going to push the puck up. Westerland, nice move to get around one as he has the puck in the corner. Haft looking for an option. The long lead feed will be found by Davison as he rotates that puck in a little deeper. As the boards battle ensues now on this near side boards, it looks like there's a penalty upcoming here to St. George. And you can see Theo Wessick not a big fan of the call. They rarely are, as that'll be the power play upcoming for the Flyers, their third of the game. They are 0 for 3 to start their John Reid tournament. Skaters out there for the Flyers: Jackson Shear, Solden, Max Wishloff, Wyatt Olson on the back end, and it will be Brody Matthews on that right wing side. Clean win by Wishloff. Wyatt Olson steps into it. Loses it for a moment. However, puck thrown into the slot for Wishloff. Couldn't do much with that as John Main sends it in and around. It'll be kept in by Shear. Wishloff back for Shear. A quick feed back for Wyatt Olson. Solden with it. Wyatt Olson. Now it's Shear. Shear steps into one and had a wide open net, but couldn't hold on to the puck. St. George will get their first clear of this power or penalty kill, but Solden, he's going to hold it at his own blue line and skate it into the other blue line on the ice. Shear swings it for Olson. Olson from distance at that right wing, right near the ringette line. We've seen Sherwood Park set up their power play on that right wing ringette side a bunch and try and force that pass through, so have to see if it's going to continue to work for them. Solden, a nice backhand feed for Matthews. Matthews gets hauled down for his efforts. However, a good boards battle will give the puck right back for Sherwood Park. Wishloff looking for an option. Loses it for a moment, but is found by Shear. There's 35 seconds remaining. DeSaltez looking for a second, as that'll be blocked. Back up to the top of the point for Matthews. He couldn't pull the trigger, and a premature whistle by the official will give a break now for St. George. Shots 22 to 16 in favor of the Flyers. There's 27 seconds remaining on the power play. knee. A good individual effort in the neutral zone, but it'll be picked off by Galacher. And eventually will be just covered up by Scriba with 14 seconds remaining. Luca Rogers. 8 goals, 12 assists for 20 points so far for St. George. As a part of the St. George U15 AAA program, 21 goals, 28 assists for 49 points. McCullum throws that up the middle. It'll be found by Galacher. The boards battle ensues now in the near side corner. DeSaltes. They're going to say went offside, but it won't matter. It eventually will be blown dead, or at least I thought it was. Waddell elects to play it, so we got still some hockey playing on. McCullum, the backhand feed for Galacher. St. George is pretty quick to regain possession of their own. Sherwood Park, good defense here to regain possession as they're going to get the breakout started with ease. An errant pass, however, will land on the stick of Jiang as he's able to rotate it up and try and get another clearing into the offensive zone for St. George. However, that will go into the box of St. George and be a stoppage of play yet again. Face-off just in front of St. George's bench. As it looks like now they're going to take a coincidental roughing minor for Drath and Brisbane. So it will be now still 5-on-5 hockey. Coincidentals don't really mean much. Besides, those two boys get a 2-minute break in the box. Pass intended for Devine. Wyatt Olson locates it in the neutral zone. His clearing attempt picked off. Caleb Thomas swings it the other way for St. George. That'll be blocking into the corner as Egan's finds Olson. The tap feed now for Westerland. Westerland able to find Colmont in stride. Noyen gets the breakout started. He gets his pass picked off in turn as Hussey throws it up into the neutral zone. Harris with the tap feed in. Now Thomas once again trying to get the breakout started. Much like we've seen in the first period, St. George was doing a good job at hemming the Flyers in their own zone. Now the second period, the Flyers are giving St. George a taste of their own medicine. Puck rotated to the far wing boards. As there's a penalty upcoming now to the Flyers. They're going to give Egan's the knee on knee, actually, so this might be more than just a 2-minute upcoming. We'll have to see what the official calls on the play. As of right now, they did say it was a penalty for kneeing. They didn't get the best angle as to see if it was a 2 or a 4. And it will be a 4, so it will be a double minor for kneeing for Nate Egan's. As St. George has a 4-minute power play upcoming. 0 for 1 on their previous attempts. Puck sent in and around. The Flyers will get their first clear of this penalty kill. St. George hasn't really had much time to practice their power play, just one Power play attempt like I mentioned in the first period, rather the second period. Flyers regain possession and send that one the length of the ice. Waddell out of his net to play the puck as he'll leave it for the captain, John Main. About a minute gone off the power play. St. George easily offside, and we'll have a stoppage of play. 2:55 remaining in the power play, so 2:53 remaining in the second period. Shots 23-16, heavily in favor of the Flyers. Shots were 11 and 10 coming into the second period. 12 shots for the Flyers and just 6 for St. George. Rogers. The feed up for Hill. 2:27 remaining here in this second period. DeSaltes unable to get the puck out as Hill will settle it down. Hill for the captain, or rather Rogers. Now it's Caleb Thomas. Rogers down low for Wessick. Rogers outlet for Thomas yet again. Rogers gets it right back. Thomas sends that now to the near side for Hill. Thomas loads up through traffic. Big rebound. Wessick on the backhand. Saved by Scriba. Some good possession time from St. George, holding on to the puck. Not a whole lot of grade A chances. Wessick out in front on the backhand. Scriba hasn't been tested a whole lot this second period. However, St. George looking to get on the board late here in the second. Face-off won by the Flyers. Sold it. Unable to get it out as will be held in by John Main. Now for Jaden Nee. Right back for Main. Loads up and sends to the right wing side. Zhao. The cross Creed feed couldn't be found as Wishloff will send that the length of the ice. Just 90 seconds remaining in the middle frame. Main. He'll chip it in a little bit deeper. There's going to be a penalty on the play. Or maybe not. Maybe just a bunch of whistles. So I didn't really see what happened there. It was blown dead, I'm assuming for an offside call. There was a late hit, so that's maybe as to why St. George might have wanted a penalty there. None forthcoming. Face-off just in front of our broadcast booth here. Hussey and Galatra taking the draw. Eventually will be gloved down by the centerman for Sherwood Park. Just about 1:10 remaining in the frame. Wessick looking for an option. He's going to cough it up now for Brisbane. Brisbane unable to do much with that as he was corralled by about 3 St. George players near the blue line. Thomas with 50 seconds remaining. Looking to just get one here for St. George. Flyers, however, able to send it the length of the ice with now just 30 seconds remaining in the middle frame. Caleb Thomas looking for an outlet. Finds Nee, however, the pass a little off target, and that'll actually be an icing call here against St. George. So barring any goals scored by St. George in the late stages of this second period, it'll be a 3-second power play for St. George to open up the third period. Tie up at the face-off draw. McCullum in the corner. Just looking to eat some of this time away. 10 seconds now is knee. He rotates it up for John Main, the captain. He's got 5 seconds remaining. Long distance shot blockered away into the corner, as that'll do it for 40 minutes of play here in the Mark Messier Arena. Two goals to report after 40 minutes of play. As that will be Shear and DeSaltes both scoring for the Flyers. No goals to report for St. George. Well, thank you very much for listening. Of course, I am Brett Subchition for HN Live. We'll be back for the third and final period action for game number 2 in the John Reid Memorial. We'll see you in about 10 minutes' time.
Join the HN Live family with its new video platform, HN Live Plus.
Oh! No. Oh, it's over! Whoa!
Not only will you get a platform with paywalls and copyright protection, but also 4K streaming at the lowest pricing with customer support.
Here comes Boyle on a breakaway. 5-hole scores.
HN Live Plus will also bring high-quality video production, video editing, and social media support to help grow your brand. Join the fastest growing sports streaming company in North America, HN Live Plus. Call today and showcase your content.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to third period action here in the Mark Messier. The Flyers find themselves up 2-0 on St. George. St. George will be looking for a big third period from that man right there. Jaden Need. Like I mentioned, a projected first round pick of this year's upcoming WHL draft. And like I mentioned, St. George is going to need a big period from him if they're going to want to crawl their way back into this game. 17 goals, 15 assists for 32 points this season. As the Flyers, they're going to start this period with a 4-second power play, so who knows if they can win the face-off quickly, they might be able to get a shot on net. Rogers with possession for St. George. The pass for Wessick. Lost in his skates. Sullivan Blink there for pressure off his blue line. He'll rotate with Max Wishloff. Shear with it. Back up to the top of the point for Solden. Tipped out in front is wide. Olsen gets smoked from behind. I don't know how that one's not a penalty, as that one is blown dead. Hudson Waddell doing what he's done best all game long and coming up big on some big stops. A tip from the point nearly had a chance for Wyatt Olsen to make a 3-0 game, but Waddell will keep it out, at least for that play. Shot from the face-off dot, put aside by Waddell. Like I mentioned in the second period, the Flyers have been very, very good off the face-off, able to win it and then just get some nice puck movement to get some grade A chances off the face-off dot. Example, the first goal of the game. Another win by the Flyers. Blink off the point, able to keep the offensive drive alive, at least for the moment. However, St. George will regain possession. Flyers pick that off in the neutral zone, as do St. George as well. Blink with it on the near side. Sullivan Blink takes a hit, but able to get the puck in a little bit deeper into the zone. Regaining possession is St. George. Blink once again able to steal it at the blue line and hem St. George in their own zone. Zhao over for Davison on the near side. Blink once again able to hold the line. He has been a very good player this entire game. Waddell with the rebound save. Holding on to it now is Harris looking for an option. Harris the centering feed will land onto the stick of Blink. Shot scores! Blink from the top of the point. Blink and you'll miss it. It's in the net. 3-0 Flyers. Sullivan Blink with his first of the tournament. He's got 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points as a defenseman, as he is having himself a great game, to say the least. He's seen about 45 seconds there. He picked off, it seemed like 3 neutral zone passes by St. George. As the Flyers now in their largest lead of the game. A good steal by the Flyers, looking to capitalize. Puck sitting there as it slides through the crease. Big save by Waddell. Schellenberg, the centering feed, back out in front. Blocker, gloved away rather, by Waddell. He has been peppered this entire game. He's got 28 shots against, 25 saves in this one. Brody Matthews, 4 goals, 9 assists for 13 points. Actually was a part of the Edmonton Hockey Club of the JPHL last year. Only played 2 games last year, so. Pass out in front, just out of reach for McCullum. Coming back the other way now is Jaden Nee. Nee to the left wing side. The backhand feed for Rogers. Rogers will dish it back off to Nee. Quickly gets his pocket picked as McCullum tries to regain possession for the Flyers in his own zone. Nee, a good boards hunt or loose puck hunt in the corner. Zhao on the near side, able to hem the Flyers in their own zone as it'll come around now for Schellenberg. Schellenberg gives it up to Nee. Nee tries to find Wessick. Boards battle in the corner now. Puck will poke free once again for St. George as Zhao Finds Wessick down low. Knee there for support as well. Wessick looking for an option out in front. St. George had to be quick to hold the line, and quick they were. Right back out in front. Rogers on net. Wessick in the corner. The centering feed for Knee. He scores. Who else but Jaden Knee for St. George's? He's going to get St. George's first goal of the tournament, as that's going to cut the Flyers' lead down to 2 goals. And just an overall great possession time from St. George. They were really able to stack on the offensive pressure. A great line effort from Rogers and Wessick, and he's going to put one home in tight. We've got ourselves a 3-1 game with just under 17 minutes remaining. Nobody off this club last year played on St. George. Well, the St. George U15 prep team, so a pretty new team by anyone's standards. A lot of the guys on this St. George team came from St. George of their AAA team last year, so puck thrown up into the front. St. George nearly had a chance to make it a 3-2 hockey game as Shear goes wide on his man. However, the captain, John Main, will be there first. Puck sent the length of the ice is Colmont. Guarded closely by Nguyen. Olsen chops at the length of the ice. It's a foot race forward. However, the captain, John Main, will be there first. He's guarded closely by Shear. Main up the middle. Flyers doing a good job regaining possession in the neutral zone as St. George has it in their own territory. Jiang, the feed for Drath, who bumps that one in a little deeper into the zone. On the forecheck now is St. George. Coming away with it, however, is the Flyers. A long clearing feed that'll hit one of the edges of the puck and go the length of the ice, but not enough for an icing. Caleb Thomas. The feed up through the middle. It'll somehow land onto the stick of Drath. Drath, a good battle, will still get the puck in a little bit deeper. Solden loses it for the moment as Devine unable to get that puck out. It's held in by Wessick as St. George is going to send out their top line. Knee, what an individual effort to glove it down as Wessick's going to hold the line. Shot, glove save by Scriba. Been a back and forth period to say the least. Jaden Knee with the St. George's first goal of the tournament. He's on a current 7-game point streak coming into it today, so he technically extends his point streak to 8 points in his last 8 games, including the last goal we just seen. 10 goals, 13 assists for 13 points. He's over a goal a game in his last 8. St. George trying to regain possession in their own zone. However, the Flyers hemming them, applying some good offensive pressure. What a feedback to the left wing side shot. Waddell with the save. It's loose, no whistle, as St. George will regain possession in front of their own net. What a save by Hudson Waddell. You're going to need a couple of those big saves if you want to crawl your way back into a 2-goal hockey game, and that's exactly what St. George is trying to do. Wessick from distance. That'll be blocked by the most recent goal scorer for the Flyers, Sullivan Blink. Coming back the other way, the Flyers cutting in. Kalatcher, his second near breakaway chance of the game. Shear with it on the backhand. Waddell will routinely glove that one down. Shear will get the rebound. To the top of the points, DeSaltes. What a move at the blue line shot. Gloved down by Waddell. DeSaltes showing off some great hands at the blue line. He was looking for his second of the game. 2 goals, 9 assists for 11 points this season. Played for OHA Edmonton last year, where very similar stat line, 2 goals, 13 assists for 15 points. Hands like that, you'd think he'd have at least 30 goals on the season. St. George unable to get the puck out. However, good check by Haft will force the puck into the neutral zone. Wyatt Olson with it. Thomas. His pass instantly intercepted by Emter. Sent right back in. Emter kicks that one back into St. George's zone where Hudson Waddell, I think he wanted to intend to cover that puck up but couldn't. Pass out in front. Wishloff on the doorstep. Waddell says no. St. George a good pickoff at the blue line. Haft unable, or rather that was Hussey unable to get a clean trigger pull out in front. Wyatt Olson will gain the red paint and send that one in. Just under 13 minutes remaining in the game. Flyers currently up 3-1 on St. George. Gambetti on the near side. He is quickly getting his pocket picked by the Flyers. Forward. Westerland, as that'll be blown dead for an offside call here. Taking a look at the other side of the ice in the Performance Arena, it is currently 3-2 right now for Yale over Edge. Just taking a look at the game sheet. As it looks like Parker McMillan, he's got 2 points in the game. He's got a goal and an assist. Tegan Derniski also scored the game's first goal. As Yale is looking a pretty early contender for the team to beat in this one. That's the other side of the ice over in the Mark Messier, as there's an upcoming penalty here against Sherwood Park. Thomas in the corner gets bumped off the puck, will give an opportunity for the Flyers to eventually touch it, and that'll be an upcoming tripping call against the Flyers, sending St. George to their third man advantage of the day. "12 minutes left. This is a big power play upcoming here for St. George. Of course, you're only down 2 goals. Maine. Shot from distance. Couldn't reach the intended target. Picking it up now is Harris. Sending it the length of the ice. He's applying some pressure on Jaden Nee, but like I was mentioning, a big power play upcoming here for St. George. You're down 2 with 12 minutes left. Time is always on your hands, however. You want to get the momentum rolling quick. Nee, a nice move to cut around one. Nee from the slot, that'll go wide. Flyers once again able to get their second clearing of this penalty kill. Maine in and around. He'll take a weird bounce. Nee unable to hold the line as he's forced to pick the puck up in the neutral zone, as he'll dish it off for the captain, Maine. Maine looking for an option. He's guarded very closely. Flyers doing some very good work at applying some pressure even down a man. Nee, the hinge feed for Maine. Now it's Hill. Hill to the near side. He gets stopped short at the blue line. However, St. George will regain possession, at least for the moment. A big heads-up play by Brisbane. St. George unable to touch it, or it would have been on offside call. So they're forced to pick the puck up in their own zone. Rogers collects that pass from his feet. Everyone's pushing and shoving right now, trying to pick up the puck now. It's come back the other way. The Flyers have a chance to regain their 3-goal lead. Schellenberg, a good move. He actually beat Waddell, but just couldn't put it home. Schellenberg, the centering feed for McCullum. DeSaltes for his D partner, Comont. Couple quick passes, and Waddell out in front of the net makes a routine stop as we've got some extracurriculars going on here. As it looks like some cooler heads will prevail, at least for the moment. So that'll be the third power play for St. George. They're 0 for 3. As we're getting into crunch time here. Latter half of the 10-minute mark of this third period. 10 minutes remaining in the game. Tipped just wide by Blink. He was looking for his second of the game. Pass out in front for Parsons, blocked away by Waddell. He sure is keeping his team in this one. Pending hand pass call, but they're going to wave it off as it was touched by St. George. Picked off by McCullum to the right wing side. McCullum, the centering feed, will go through the crease. Haft, a good check on the boards, but arm will go up. There's a pending penalty call here as Max Haft and Blake Solden have some choice words for each other. I think they're going to give Haft the boarding call. So that'll be upcoming now, the fourth actually an interference call, so the fourth power play of the day for Sherwood Park. There's been no goals to report on the special teams end, so we'll have to see if this is going to be the first man advantage goal of the game. Face-off won by Sherwood Park. Olsen, shot from the right wing side, routinely gloved down by Waddell. Solden had to be quick to hold the line, and quick he was. For Matthews, the quick drop feed now in the slot for Shear. Shear rotates it for Wishloff, and in turn finds Matthews. Matthews tries to weave his way around the defender behind the net. Sherwood Park is quick to regain possession, however. Olsen to the right wing side, now it's Shear looking for a second of the game. Olsen settles it down for the Flyers. He's going to swing it back up for Solden. Solden now back for Shear's shot as he shatters the stick on the one time. Matthews back over for Olsen. Olsen back for Matthews. Matthews fires a snap passes for Shear, but that'll be blown dead, an offside call by the linesman. A very quick call by the linesman, however, I do believe that was the right one. Stoppage of play now as Shear was cutting his way into the zone off the bench. So he had that one-time shot off the blue line, but shattered the stick in the process. Resulting face-off now just outside St. George's zone. Nee nearly got his pocket picked in front of his own net. Now coming back the other way is Rogers. The pass into the skates for Nee. Couldn't do much with that, but a free puck sitting there for Rogers. Shot just wide. Nee on the wraparound. Couldn't get it through. Flyers coming in with numbers. Still have 40 seconds remaining on the power play as Blank looking for an option. He'll weave his way into the zone and get his pass picked off by Nee. Nee the backhand feed. Nearly had Rogers on the breakaway. Parsons looking for an outlet. Pass onto the stick of Blank. Actually intended for Blank, but it'll be picked up by McCullum. Another stoppage of play. 14 seconds remaining on the power play. Sherwood Park heavily out shooting St. George 36-23 right now. Of course, Sherwood Park has the ability to not really have to travel very far. Just about a 20-minute drive from Sherwood Park into here in St. Albert. So they have the luxury of not really having to stay in a hotel and have the luxury of sleeping in their own beds. A boards battle on the near side. It's back to 5-on-5 hockey. As the official didn't see that coming free anytime soon. So that'll be another stoppage of play. 6:47 remaining. As I mentioned, the Flyers, they came into today's contest 20-2, second in the AEHL. They're on an 8-game winning streak right now, coming into today's game. So that's on the line. In that 8-game winning streak, 45 goals for to 14 against. They've been playing some good hockey, to say the least, as of late. Blink. Long lead feed, nearly had his man Olsen on the break. Schiebler cutting his way. Behind the net now, St. George trying to surge. It's a loose puck out in the crease. Everybody's sitting on it. As the official will just blow that dead. I don't think that was covered up by the netminder, but under the mass of bodies out in front, I think that was the right play. The line of Olsen, Wishloff, and Scheer has sure been good for the Flyers all game long. That has been their main point getter. You can talk about how good that line's been playing all game long, and then you look at a guy like Sullivan Blink, who has a goal in today's game, and the defenseman DeSaltes as well for the Flyers. So top line playing very well, but also getting some help from the defensemen are the Flyers. Delatcher had to be careful not to go offside with that puck. Zhao in the corner with Wesek. Wesek, the quick feed for Rogers, but once again, Blink able to stop him short. However, the puck will land onto the stick now of Jaden Nee. Nee. Button hooks in the corner, waiting for the trailers to arrive. Didn't arrive in time as he's quickly pinned in along the boards as another boards battle ensues now, and that'll be blown dead for another boards battle. Blown dead. As I mentioned in my intro, Sherwood Park wasn't invited to last year's team. However, they do have 3 John Reid championships under their belt, 1979, 1991, and 2008 are all former championships of the Flyers. They were the Flyers in 91 and 2008. However, in 1979, they were the Bumpers. Still a Sherwood Park team. And of course, as I mentioned, St. George without a John Reid championship. It actually will be a pulled goalie here by St. George. So they have their net empty with more than 5 minutes remaining in the game. So we'll see if an early goalie pull will result in them getting rewarded with a goal or two. Only time will tell. Face-off won by St. George in the corner. Back to the top of the point, loading up, shot blocked away by Scriba into the corner. Zhao from distance, puck dribbles its way onto the net. That'll be saved by Scriba yet again. He's seen 27 shots this game. He's put aside 26. Hasn't been tested nearly as much as the goalie in the bench now, but I was going to say on the other side of the ice. However, it has been a very good goaltenders duel this entire game. Without those two goalies playing as well as they are, it easily could be a 6-5 game. Net still empty for St. George. Neal come away with it for Giao. Now it's Need, top left wing, circle shot. That's Wishloff with the soak as Wyatt Olson sends it the length of the ice. Scores! Wyatt Olson from distance will get the Flyers the 3-goal lead yet again. It's 4-1. It's been a good day for the Flyers here. Their top point getters finding the score sheet. Of course, Jackson Shear. And just as he's seen Wyatt Olson with the empty netter. Another stoppage play upcoming, and we see some aggressions boil over here. Some cooler heads will prevail. So just an update on that Yale Edge game. Yale was able to barely escape with the win. 3-2 over Edge School U15 Prep. So Yale will improve their record to 1-0, and Edge will drop to 0-1. I know this is just the first game of the tournament for either team. It was the first game of the tournament, but it's always nice to get that opening tournament win. Flyers will pick the puck off. As a boards battle ensues yet again. This time the puck doesn't poke free. I can't remember the last time I've seen 3 boards battles result in a blown dead whistle. It was funny too, because watching that boards battle, I seen the puck get out like twice and go right back into the mix of players along the board. So I think the official seen that as well and thought, we'll just blow this one dead and give a face-off for either team. DeSaltes, one of the goal scorers for the Flyers. Rotates that one in. St. George still with more than enough time to crawl their way back into this game. Yeah, you are down 3 goals. However, there is still 4 minutes left on the board, so maybe Waddell going to the bench. This won't be the first time we see it happen in this game. I'll keep a close eye to see if head coach of St. George wants to send Waddell to the bench. Drath rotates it for Knee. Centering feed. Goes nowhere and eventually will be covered up by Scriba. Of course, former U15 Flyers, some alumni to name here. Braden Coots, of course, of the, well, I was going to say the Seattle Thunderbirds, but he was traded to the Prince Albert Raiders in a blockbuster deal trade about a couple weeks ago. Prince Albert rather. They look pretty good. They looked good before all the trades are making, but they sure are loading up. And I'd say they're the team out of the East to beat right now. But that is the dub, and we're talking about the John Reid Memorial right now. 3:25 remaining in the game. Shots 38-27 in favor of the Flyers. They've led in the shot department all game long. The shots were as close as 11-10 at one point in the game. Now it's an 11-point disparity in favor of the Flyers. 11-shot disparity, that is. Puck thrown into the neutral zone. They're going to say that went off the skate of DeSaltes, so no stoppage on the play. Rogers down for Knee. Reid trying to kick it up to his stick as he's going to rotate it back for Rogers. Rogers from distance, rather that was Main from distance. Now Zial from distance, a big rebound. Nguyen couldn't put that one home. The centering feed, Rogers. Couldn't do much with that as the Flyers elect just to send that the length of the ice to just try and get the puck out of the zone. Forrest Schiebler. Just one assist so far this season. As this St. George U15 prep team looked at as one of the better teams in the CSSHL. Like I mentioned, a 13-5 record. They sit 7th in the CSSHL, which, if you're unfamiliar with that league, I do believe there's about 18 teams in that league, so 7 out of 18 isn't too bad. Of course, as I mentioned, they're looking to avenge a quarter-finals loss to Delta last year that ended their hopes of making it to Championship Sunday. They ended up playing on Sunday, where they would actually take on Madden Deneau and the Red Deer Rebels, which they would easily handle business with the Rebels winning 6-0. Speaking of the Rebels, that is the next matchup on the slate here. It will be BWC Academy taking on Madden Deneau and the Rebels. If you're looking for more hockey to watch today, I highly suggest you tune into that one. Of course, I'll be on the call for that one. Nice move by Matthews in the slot. A backhand shot put aside routinely by Waddell. We've got 1:31 left in today's first matchup of the Mark Messier rink. Of course, taking a look at the the matchup for the Performance Arena on the other side. It's the St. Albert Sabres, the host St. Albert Sabres, taking on OHC Colorado. There's only 2 American teams invited to this year's John Reid Memorial. Of course, that is OHC Colorado, like I just said, and Fairmont as well. Wessick, it's a 3-on-2. He's going to drop it off for the goal scorer knee. Right back to Wessick. Wessick, 1-on-1 forehand. Oh my gosh, what a save by Scriba. Able to lend out the pad and rob Wessick of what would have been St. George's second of the game. Devine, the drop feed for Westerland now. Westerland for Brisbane. Couldn't do much with that. St. George outlets for knee. Blink trying to cut his way to the net for his second of the game. Now we've got just less than 30 seconds remaining, as that'll be blown dead. With 31.4 seconds remaining. And in the dying seconds of this game, Flyers find themselves up 4-1 St. George. I made mention of the alumni that played for the U15 Flyers, some alumni right now for St. George. Andrew Cristall, the former Spokane Chief, now playing for the Hershey Bears of the American Hockey League. I'm sure it won't be long before we see him making his debut in the NHL. And Brock Cripps of the Prince Albert Raiders should be a future NHL star. A shot from the point with just 4 seconds remaining as Flyers are able to hold the line. Blink one last time, but that'll do it. Sherwood Park able to come away with a 4-1 win over St. George, as they're going to start their John Reid Memorial off right with a win. It was a whole team effort. I made mention of how good that top line looked. However, it was the D-core that really impressed me on this Sherwood Park team. Like I mentioned, Wyatt Olson and Jackson Schur off that top line did score. However, Sullivan Blink was able to score, as was Ben DeSaltez. And it was 4 different scores for the Flyers after 60 minutes of play. Jaden Nee, the projected first-round WHL draft pick for St. George, was the lone goal scorer for the red and white. As the boys are going through the handshakes, as we'll now take you to the player of the game. Players of the game on both sides of the ice. And taking a look at some player stats. For the players of the game. As it looks like it will be Scriba for the Flyers, picking up the player of the game. He stopped 28 of 29 shots en route to the win. And it will be Liam Hussey for St. George. He didn't record a point, but sure played hard for the red and white. And that'll be game number 1 here in Mark Messier. Done and in the books. Well, the Flyers will come away with the 4-1 win over St. George, as they're going to start off right with the 1-0 record. Like I mentioned, next game on the slate will be the Burnaby Winter Club Academy taking on the Red Deer Rebels. So I highly suggest you tune into that one. Well, that's all for us for this game. Of course, as always, I am Brett Topchich, Dave Dawson, our cameraman for HN Live. As always, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in about 20 short minutes for the start of the Red Deer game and Burnaby game. It starts at 11, and we hope to see you there.